Welcome back to the Black Rose PDX podcast. Today our guest is Donovan Smith, and we talk about his journey from starting his clothing line with Ignorant Reflections, to coming up with the slogan Gentrification is Weird, to doing the Illimit Hip Hop Festival, and also getting his first gig at Portland Observer. And so he's a big mover and shaker in Portland. You may have seen him in the art community doing a whole lot of big things. And so without further ado, let's get it started. Welcome to the podcast. We got Donovan Smith here, a native Portlander, a mover and shaker in these parts, up and coming writer, and definitely there's a lot of big things coming from this guy right here. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so first and foremost, like how are you responding to the whole coronavirus thing?
Definitely washing my hands.
Yep.
Washing my hands a lot. Got the hand sanitizer on deck. I'm in an apartment where we share like a common space, the bathroom specifically.
Yeah.
So definitely put out some wipes for everybody to make sure we're staying cleanly. And just I can't say I've been staying indoors at all times. I definitely stepped out yesterday, so don't judge me.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and my girlfriend went on a late night Winco run to try to get some stuff, and so it's really tough. It's really tough, especially living in the city or whatever. You don't really try to stock up on a whole lot of stuff because you got to figure out a place to store it.
Right. But I mean, that's the thing with this is, I think, at least for me, is making me think about the emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
And being a little bit more proactive about it after this stuff kind of blows over. Because, like my friend Laquita. Do you know Laquita?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like, she's all about emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because, we're going to have an earthquake at some point here in Portland. And It could be any day. And so that is a big part of like why she pushes, being prepared. But like this shows that it could be for other situations as well. And I'm like, damn, I've been to the store like 3 times this week for different things. Yeah, just to pick different stuff up. Because like when it first came out, I was like, all right, let me grab this or that. I should be good. Then I'm like, let me grab a little bit more when I run out of certain stuff. But it's like, no, I need to have stuff like on deck.
Yeah. Like it's little things like hydrogen peroxide, rubbing alcohol, first aid kit, just little things like that you kind of take for granted, and then when it runs out, you're like, okay, I'll just refill it later. It's like, well, you gotta be a little more proactive than that, because it's difficult sometimes. Like
I gotta go get some more soap actually today. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so with you, you started this brand called Gentrification is Weird, or Ignorant Reflections, and just kind of like talk about like what you're doing right now that that is starting to pick up speed, or is definitely caught wind.
Yeah. So Ignorant Reflections, just as the clothing line, that really was like this progression of thought that I was having actually all the way from college.
Okay.
So like Ignorant Reflections, like when I was in college in like 2011 or 2012, I was with my friends like one day and I was like, hey, we should start a clothing line. And it was just on a random, and everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And, it was kind of what we decided we wanted to do was like have a clothing line that made people think, we felt like we could really change the world at the time. It was like we were very, I think we were a little bit arrogant about what we thought we could do with clothes, but still, and we had like this point where we thought we were about to get invested in and all this stuff. And, it ended up not working out, and we, everybody kind of fizzled out. I got kicked out of school in 2012 at Fisk University, and I just really still, like, as I came back home and was really thinking about what I was trying to do, I was like, I kind of want to do that clothing line thing. And so I just kind of figured it out, and figured out more of what I wanted to say too, because I think it was just this kind of blanket of like, yeah, I want to like change the world, but like,
yeah,
that you can do that in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
You can do that by putting trash in the, or putting a piece of paper in the recycling,
Yeah.
So in the midst of that, I've made different statements that, I wanted to convey through images and everything, or text. And I think things that were resonating for me, ultimately, like, they're things that I wanted to wear because they were things that I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I think those things have translated back out into the world. And it still has kind of acted in that original thought that I was having with my friends back in college, which they are ways of getting people to think, but they're just like the way that I really like want to move things in the world, not just kind of blanket statements. So anyways, gentrification is weird. That was one of the things that came out of Ignorant Reflections. It wasn't meant to be anything other than one of the t-shirts that I put out.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what was funny about that was, I was working on this project called Degentrifying Portland that Sharita Town was doing. And so she was teaching like young people, which I was a young person at that point, 30 years around the corner. But she was teaching young people like audio and visual skills, like at OpenSignal and at Cable. And so, and it was to like explore gentrification. And while I was working on that project, me and my partner on the project, Haley, we were going into bars and barbershops in Northeast Portland and asking people about like what they liked about the neighborhood and everything. And then like it was just kind of this clear difference to me, like when I was talking to white people.
Yeah.
Like they were like, oh, like there wasn't shit here. And, then all these bars, they're great. I love getting faded after a run, and stuff like that. And then like, talking to people in barbershops, black folks in barbershops especially, is like what I missed or what I did like, was kind of, and it was just like, yeah, to me, the Keep Portland Weird idea was so like overlaid in Northeast neighborhoods and everything. And as for me, like, just like that moment of like, yeah, gentrification, like Keep Portland Weird is living and breathing in this area. And it doesn't matter how, weird you might be. I'm odd, I'm a pretty odd person too. Yeah. And I don't think that brand or the idea of it as it exists right now necessarily applies to us in these neighborhoods. So anyways, as I put it out, what I realized is people wanted to engage with that statement. And I wanted to engage with it too. Like I wanted to engage with it beyond being a t-shirt. So it just bubbled into a project that doesn't really have an end date to it, but just a way to explore Black life in Portland, but even Oregon. And so doing that through other projects underneath Gentrification is Weird or events. A lot of times I'll say it's like edutainment that I use to bring people in. So yeah, this year I have a couple things that I'm really excited about. Gonna be doing the Iltopia Hip Hop Festival again.
Okay. And when is that?
So it's TBD. All the projects that I have in terms of dates are TBD, but they will be this summer.
Okay.
So the Iltopia Hip Hop Festival, I originally dreamed that up when I was part of Portland Harbor Community Coalition.
Okay.
Working on, just getting people to understand the Willamette River cleanup and its impacts on Black and brown people and immigrants. And it was just kind of like, let's get people out at Cathedral Park right there on the river. And, let's have live hip hop and have music and these different info booths for people to understand that this is $1 billion cleanup that's coming into the city. It's going to change the layout of the city, and we need to be engaged with it. And also just to get reconnected with the river, because I think so many of us, especially if you're from Portland, you just grew up thinking the Willamette River is gross. And it is. It does have a lot of gross qualities to it, but it's also like a spiritual place. So just kind of reconnecting with the fact that that's not how the river always has been, and there are still redeeming qualities to it, even in the state that it's in. So be doing that with Get Hooked Foundation and Gentrification as well, of course. And then doing another event, Jump Town, this summer, which will. I'll go ahead.
So with these, before we get deeper and deeper into all the other ones, it sounds like you're sort of sounds like you're kind of like the brainchild for a lot of these things, where you just kind of come up with an idea and then you just really kind of go for it and then see how it goes from there.
Yeah, for sure. There's no shortage of ideas that I have, and that's a blessing and a curse, because sometimes I want to do everything. But, that is really how a lot of these things go. I have an idea or an arc that I'd like to follow in terms of just things that I think we should be tracking, or I want to engage with other people about. I have a thought around music history right now in the city, and just how jazz and hip hop are connected, not even just in the city, but just as art pieces, as music forms. And that's something I'm really, really deep in thought about right now. So like I was saying with that Jumptown event, that is something that it's not just that I'm trying to give information. I'm also just trying to work with people to think through that and, think about what I lost my train of thought. But just thinking about it deeper. And there's some ways that I think I can help facilitate that conversation, but also just kind of being a part of the conversations is good for me as well. So
Okay. And so it sounds like you value that sort of communal piece and that collaborative piece that goes along with organizing and really getting things done. And so how did you kind of get started doing all this stuff?
Yeah, it was all kind of a series of things. I think the biggest change for me, I'm forever indebted to the Portland Observer, actually.
Okay.
So, when I came back home from college, that one of the things I was really trying to figure out was I wanted to express myself more, and writing was one of the things that I really had been encouraged around, from my teachers, even in high school, but in college, I had a professor tell me you should think about publishing this piece, and that was the first time I heard that from somebody. So, and then I got on the school paper. I only did one piece, but anyways, without rehashing everything, the Observer decided to take a chance on me. I just walked in to their paper one day and asked if I could start writing for them and doing opinion pieces. And they put me on an assignment instead, and I wrote the story. It went to front page, and that started my writing career, as a professional writer.
Okay.
And so the thing that came with that was like the same ideas that I was trying to engage with through opinion pieces, I got to kind of explore through actual articles and just learning the practices of journalism, but also like I was starting to connect with people that had like minds. Mm-hmm. And also I started to learn more around the mechanisms that were making the city tick. So it's like, okay, like I already had a base knowledge of like things that were going on in community, or like the ways we had been disrupted and seeing different ways we had been disrupted. But it's like, oh, like it's actually these people make this thing go this way, or this agency controls this amount of money, and people, or if these people are pushing up against these people, certain money is getting released, or whatever, whatever it may be. So it was like actually starting to understand like more than just saying the system, the system at large. Yeah. It was just kind of like there are actual ways to engage. So I think because I came to the paper, or came to journalism, especially with already wanting to like put my opinion out, I think it was harder for me to play a role of like just being completely like I have no opinion on any of this stuff. So I think naturally I just found myself stepping into more roles that were, trying to push up against certain things or again engage people. And so I can't say it was one specific action other than like definitely the paper gave me more knowledge of how to influence things. That's like I was saying, I think when I was in college in Nashville and everything, I really just kind of had this broad idea of changing things. Yeah. And I think the paper was the thing that gave me the tools to say, all right, this is how you can direct that energy,
Oh yeah, definitely. I see a lot of parallels with what you're talking about with sort of like my career as an artist, because I didn't get into art until I had my second surgery when I was playing football, and so I was like, the Boondocks isn't out. I'm trying to do like the next Boondocks. I'm a big fan of Aaron McGruder, and I literally just, I kid you not, I literally just looked him up on Wikipedia of like how he got started. And he was like, he got on with the newspaper. He just started getting published a lot. And then that getting him published started to pick up his esteem and build up a fan base. And then he got a cartoon. So I was like, in order for me to get a cartoon, I got to go straight to the papers. And so I just got on with the school newspaper, got published that first time, saw how easy it was to get published. And then it was just like, I got bit by the bug then. And so now, I'm here, 7 years later, just, still kind of moving towards that angle. And it's, I think, much like you, it created a funnel for me to channel all my creativity and my curiosity into something that can help, benefit me in the future.
Yeah. It's funny you had that experience with Magruder, which I love the Boondocks. I'm probably gonna be watching a lot of Boondocks during this quarantine. But, I had a lot of that same energy with Basquiat too when I was first just trying to figure out what to do with shirts and everything. I found a lot of encouragement around, because like for me, I can't draw. Like I can't draw well, at least, and like I'm creative, but I just kind of you dropped for a second. Okay. Oh, yeah. But yeah, like I was like, I don't know if I can really do the t-shirt thing if I can't draw, or one way or another. Like I ended up coming across Basquiat and just seeing that he really got started, as somebody that was just on the streets and graffitiing stuff, and that eventually got him discovered and put into galleries and things of that nature. But it was just something about also his general backstory. you know, I think it's not exactly like mine, but for me, like I had, I'm from Portland, from Northeast, but that was like for the first half of my life. I was here in Northeast, or inner Northeast. And then, we moved just by 82nd when I started middle school.
Okay.
And so when I started middle school, I also started going to Oregon Episcopal School, which is a private school.
Okay.
And like I was one of the few black kids, like this many black kids.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and that has its own dynamics that you got to deal with.
It was like it was a really hard thing to adjust to, and I don't know, it was just kind of in his upbringing, kind of being between worlds and everything, that I found a lot of encouragement to. And I was like, I don't need somebody to stamp me as an artist. I can just like use my creativity and get what I'm feeling out, and people will resonate with it or they won't. So anyways, yeah. I don't know if that strain of thought made sense, but it made sense in my
head. It makes sense because I think a lot of people, a lot of black people in Portland have those sort of experiences that lead them to the work that they're doing, whether it be creative or in the whatever profession that they're doing, and it's there's sort of like a sub theme of being a pariah that forces you into exploring your passion against what is popular. And another thing is really just kind of finding your voice and what you really have to say about certain things pertaining to your experiences. And so particularly for black people, the work that they do has this personal like dynamic and component that they can't shy away from.
Yeah. What does pariah mean though?
So a pariah is like an outcast, like Dr. Scissor or Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
So we're like, looking at the person, you tend to like cast them out because of fears of like what they have the potential of doing, and so you don't want to associate them for whatever reason. Kind of like an outcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Just even if you've been embedded nothing but North and Northeast like your whole life as a black person here, it's still like we weren't meant to be here, and so I think that just kind of overlays all of our experience in one way or another. And I think for me, even when I was going out to Fisk, which was a HBCU, it was in part because of that pariah experience, right? Of being, one of the few black kids at my school. And it was also because they were trying to tell me to go to community college because my grades were not great. I was like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to an HBCU, in fact. And so, when I got out there, though, it was still a pariah experience because people were like, wait, you're from Portland?
Yeah.
Like the place with the trees, the trailblazers, like, and I remember people like saying they got black people out there and all that stuff. And
yeah,
Portlandia came out like the same year that I came to
oh
Fisk.
dang, so that didn't help. That didn't help. Oh man. Yeah. Portlandia over there messing it up for black people out here. It's rough. It's rough. And
I like this show. I watch it from time to time, but yeah, it just doesn't do well for the general populace's idea of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it is what it is. It's one of those things that it exists, and so how do you sort of propel the quote unquote black agenda in the age of Portlandia, so that more and more people don't try to gentrify the whole place and push all the black people out.
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily like in terms of what we're up against. like Portlandia is one of the least of our problems.
Yeah.
In truth, you know what I mean? Like it's like we're dealing with like decades of laws that have like siphoned out wealth from our community. That's really what we're up against.
Yeah.
And still is. Like one of my mom's was it? No, it wasn't my mom's. It was my aunt's mom. In fact, I just learned this, but she's getting hit with all these codes, these tax codes, over at her house that have totaled up to like something like $7,000 or $8,000 that she's supposed to be paying. And yeah, this is the home that she's been in over in Northeast for years, ever since I was a kid. You know, and you know, about the house that my mom had moved to, you know, off of 82nd. You know, when I was in high school, she was fighting a case against TriMet for basically the whole time that I was at the school, because she had got injured on the job, and she was trying to prove that they had fired her when she was injured because of race. And it was this whole thing where she was fired, still trying to, you know, take care of these house payments, and ultimately ended up losing the house. She, you know, after years of fighting, got reinstated with her seniority at TriMet. But this is a situation where she is now a renter, you know, on 42nd, where, you know, where, you know, we were in my early years at the same apartments, in fact.
Oh, dang.
So it's kind of like, you know, these are the things that we're up against. She can prove racism, essentially, at work, and still, you know, end up, you know, a renter. Yeah. These are the type of things that we're up against, and that has shit to do with like I don't know if we can cuss on here.
It's a public platform.
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with, you know, a TV show. This was something that she was dealing with, you know, back in 2010, 2009, 2008, 2007. And, you know, the repercussions for that are still at play. And so when I think about, you know, how I, you know, stepped into this work, it's really in part because of stuff like that I was watching, you know, for my early years. And knowing that that's at play for a lot of people. So we're combating ideas, but we're also combating laws, and we're just combating a thing that has a systematic hold on us. And I think what has brought me into more tables too is just kind of like there's so many billions of billions of dollars that are going to be poured into the city over the next like couple decades alone. You know, just like I said with that Willamette River cleanup, that's a federal cleanup. And there are other things. There's going to be money poured into roads. There's going to be money poured into, you know, schools. There's money that's going to be poured into all these different things. And I think it's important to be at the table to help shift where money is going, because I think sometimes it's not even insidious, like in terms of like how we can be left out. I think it's just because certain people don't have particular experiences, and so they can't even speak to how dollars should be directed, or what would be a better way of implementing an idea that's going to affect everybody in the city.
It's like, from what you're talking about, it reminds me of when I was talking to Donnell with Elevate Oregon, where some of the problems that particularly plague, you know, Black people in Portland, Black and brown people, but particularly Black people, is that there isn't that level of what was the word that I want to use? There's, you know, there isn't that benefit of the doubt that if you give Black people money, or if you give them the resources, that they'll be successful. You know, right. You know, whether, not to say that it's you know, particularly a Portland sort of mentality, but just nationally, it's seen as like, giving black people stuff, giving the black community something is kind of a charity case, to where it's not an investment. You're just giving it away because you have money to give away, opposed to investing in the community so that they could improve their conditions and their situations. And you don't necessarily see that with when they're treating other populations, where it's an investment opposed to something that they can just afford to throw away.
Yeah, I think that is often real. And the thing is, me nerding out on our history in the city too is like, that's not the case when you look at certain things like Black United Funds, or not Black United Fund, the Black Educational Center, rather, and folks like Ron Herndon, and starting up a school that, one, reinforces Black history, but also teaches like technical skills to Black youth, right?
Yeah.
You got that center was being sustained with investment from the community, and also had other resources coming in, and was actually like a great model. And it was working up against the busing laws that were coming into the city at the time, which was like the 70s,
Yeah.
80s. And I don't know, what ultimately ends up happening is, when you divest from programs like that, then the community is left weaker. But imagine if the Black Educational Center had actually been resourced to the same level of, let's say, my school, Oregon Episcopal School, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it had that level of resources, which they have an endowment that has some millions in it, I think we may actually have a stronger community. That's just my thought. But yeah, I think it is an odd phenomenon where people think we're a charity case, when ultimately we know that the city and just the society is functioning off of capital. And when you make an investment in people, you'll probably have results that are better for everybody.
Yeah, I think from as being a business owner and being a part of a lot of these conversations and getting grants and stuff like that, it's definitely opened up my eyes to what the landscape is for funding for a lot of these things. Because you quickly learn that as a citizen of America, we all have to pay taxes. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can't avoid it. You buy something, you pay taxes. You work for somebody, you pay taxes. And so that creates a pool of money that everybody is buying into, and then on the return, it becomes more of an investment from those tax funds back into the community. And
Right.
so other communities or other entities will always try to make it seem like, oh, they're successful and the money that they're getting is from their constituents or their private funds. But in actuality, y'all are taking our tax money and y'all just not giving it back to us. And then they'll say, oh, you got to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like, y'all not picking y'all using our money to buy your boots. And so
Facts, though.
and so for people that don't understand that, it's easy to internalize, like, dang, the Black community isn't doing their part to improve their situation. It's like, no, y'all aren't, like, y'all are just trying to mess up the playing field so that it makes it harder for us to do something, when you guys are having the same struggles and same problems. You just have more resources.
Yeah. And I think about, like, even what we did back in 2017, I think it was 2017, or we got from Metro the placemaking grant. It was the first year that Metro had opened up this particular set of money. But it was Gentrification is Weird, Doug, YGB, and Friends of Noise. Like, we all teamed up and did Art Save My Life. And so we had like three Black artists that we gave month-long residencies to, and we just gave them, we gave them some money unrestricted, and we gave them different resources that we would focus, kind of curate to their own needs, and that money actually is still having a trickle effect, even though it wasn't like a ton of money, right? Like and not just the money, but the resources. Because like I think about Mr. Bobby, right? Like we were just trying to help him out with social media and like know how to navigate that. And I see he's got his like Insta page going and everything now.
Yep. He got the cards. He out there moving now.
And Sade, same thing. Like Sade was just getting started with her art career, Sade Beasley. And not that I think she was gonna go regardless. Sade is like amazing. She's like in a apprenticeship program for like steam fitting, and then she's doing her art stuff, and then she's got her like beeswax company or something with her husband and stuff. She's just popping.
Yeah, that was I think for her that was a really good. After she graduated, she started just popping up, doing all these art things, and she getting married. Like she was having a year. She was having a year.
But this was right when she was getting really to start with her art and everything. So it's like that was just one of those things where we kind of got to be a part of the trajectory of where she is kind of destined to go. And same thing with Matt. Even with Matt, right? Like Matt was one of our residents, Matt Randall. And, he was able to use that same money for studio equipment and, whatever he needed to take care of. And also that investment is beyond what's tangible, because like him and I developed a relationship out of that, because I didn't know Matt before. Mm-hmm. Then he hit me up like last year and was like, I want to do an event with you for my neighborhood. And so we're teaming up this year. It's one of the things that we're doing is at George Park, which is this park that he told me about. I didn't know anything about it, but he said it's a place where a lot of kids will like essentially just get in trouble. And it's right by Roosevelt and George Middle School and everything. And he's like, I want to activate the park and do it for the kids. And so we're planning something for the kids for that park this summer. But like also what's developed out of that is we're trying to, we're talking to Portland Parks about like actually making improvements to the park. Like forming a friends group, talking about just engaging with these systems. Like, well, that's one of the things that I'm learning is like, a friends group is like something that has the city's ear, on a long-term basis. Like, let's form this friends group. Let's have it be people that have been a part of the neighborhood or people that are, his actual friends. Cause traditionally these friends groups are mostly white. And really think about what will be best for, St. John's in terms of improving this park. So it's turned into this longer kind of, we'll do this event this summer, if CV doesn't get us all.
Right.
And then, we'll turn it into an annual event that will also just be helping support work that we're going to be doing for the next few years now to make that park better for all of St. John's and just, the city in general. So I say that to say, like, these are the type of things when you think about investment really is like investing in people and their ideas. And you never know how big that seed can grow into. Because when we started Art Save My Life, it wasn't that we thought it was going to turn into, actually changing one part of the city in this way, but that's what it is. And so goes the same for when you actually put, thousands or millions of dollars in Black folks. Know?
Yeah. I mean, you see what Black culture in and of itself is doing mainstream, to where 10 years ago, it was places were banning BET and all that stuff. And now hip hop music, all like black culture is kind of like the buzzword of the century. I mean, TikTok
Right.
is literally profiting off of black culture right now, you know? And so it's like the power in that investment when you give it the opportunity to scale with the people that are creating it, coming up with those ideas, then that's where success comes. You know, creating jobs for other people, moving the economy, opening more doors for opportunities to further the conversation and really get people from, you know, picking up pennies to actually having seats at the table.
Yeah. And, to that same end, you were talking about the grant money earlier. One thing that I'm learning too is, you kind of have to get, some seed money, right? You pick up like a smaller grant of 12 grand or something, and you use that as justification. It's almost like a small business loan,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To build into your next one, to say, okay, this idea that I was able to do on a small scale, I just need more to be able to do this larger and to be able to touch more people and everything. So I'm actually in the middle of like really starting to figure that part of the system out.
Yeah.
So I can actually affect more, more people and build out, especially Gentrification is weird as a platform to make more effective changes in the city. But yeah, I don't know, when we started Art Saved My Life again, that was really the first grant that I had been a part of writing and getting and all that stuff. And I didn't think about it in those specific ways of like, I need to use this to build this thing. But that is a big part of the game. And not to make it sound like it's a game, because it's not, but yeah, seed that money to get more. And what's the phrase? Takes money to get money.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're somebody who's thinking about starting a little project or idea, I would say go get that little rack grant. Go get some for $2,000-$3,000 and just, use that to build your portfolio and go to the next thing. And then also what comes with that too is the relationships, right? And those are things that will usher you into more doors around more money, but also more seats at certain tables that are, again, dictating the dollars that are coming into the city. So.
Yeah, it's there's opportunities out there, and it's just a matter of providing resources to help navigate those opportunities and really educating and helping people modernize in this landscape that we're at. And so as we're kind of going wrapping up the podcast, are there any things that you kind of want to plug or kind of talk about that are coming up for you?
Yeah, I think like I was saying earlier, 2020 summer is going to be pretty full. And so Kids in the Park is the event that we'll be doing with Matt Randall. That's kids with a Z, and then N is just the letter N, because we're urban. And yeah, the other event, Jumptown, that I mentioned, that's going to be folded under Sharita Town's Black Arts Ecology Project, but it's going to be an exploration of like jazz history in the city and Portland hip hop history, different moments, but also different laws and moments that have affected the community, and try and explore like what the relationship of like the lack of space looks like between those two art forms. And what is the other thing? Oh yeah, Illamit will be happening this summer as well. And I guess the last thing, Juneteenth in Gresham. So we were a part of the first one last year. Gentrification is Weird and Friends of Noise. We did the entertainment for the stage, but we'll be doing it again this year, and hopefully it'll be bigger. We have like 2,000 people out there last summer, so just hoping to grow and really try and stake claim to Gresham a little bit more too, because like I was saying, this is a statewide thing. It's not just a Portland thing.
Yeah.
That we're trying to open up.
Yeah, as you're just going off the list of just all those different things, it's like, dang, you stay busy.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying, you know, and just trying to open up more doors. So hopefully in the next few years, there'll be a little bit more, or a few more doors open because of this particular platform of Gentrification is Weird, beyond just the moments and the memories. Like, I'm hoping to knock some doors down. So
Okay.
we shall see.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll definitely try to stay up to date with that, you know, and definitely stay in contact because you know, it sounds just really exciting what you're doing right now, and especially in the grander scheme of, you know, Black Portland and creating opportunities for other people. And so with that, you know, appreciate the time and you know, just hanging out with us and chatting with us for a little bit and kind of putting us up on some game.
Yeah, thank you for letting me ramble a little bit. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Again, I want to give another shout out to the Soul District Business Association and Flossin Media for helping me put this on. I'm your host, Stephen Christian. I mixed and mastered this podcast. I also did all the interviews. And if you see any of the stuff on YouTube, I put all that stuff together as well. With all the social distancing things right now, I'm producing this right out of my home studio. So if you have a chance, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Medium at PDX Black Rose, which is PDX BLACKROSE. And if you're on Patreon, hit us up on there. We would love your support. If you don't do anything else, definitely rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. And on top of that, be sure to share this with your friends. The purpose of this podcast is to highlight the movers and shakers in Portland that are doing things in the Black community. And by supporting this podcast, you're supporting the community as a whole. So with that being said, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the flip side. The intro song is brought to you by Andy Stokes, and the outro song is brought to you by Spring Gang from Epidemic Sound.